The sun hung low over Rio Blanco, casting long shadows across the New Mexico territory like fingers reaching for something lost. Dust swirled in lazy spirals where Nathan Graves worked, his hammer striking the fence post with the rhythm of a man who knew the value of honest labor. Each blow echoed across the empty land, a sound as familiar as his own breathing. 59 years had carved themselves into his face, deep lines around eyes that had seen too much and yet still searched for something more. His shoulders, once broad as an oak beam, now carried a slight stoop that came with decades of ranch work, silver-streaked through hair that had once been dark as coal. His hands, weathered and scarred, moved with practiced efficiency despite the ache in his knuckles that spoke of coming rain. He paused, wiping sweat from his brow with the back of his hand, and looked toward the boy working beside him. Samuel, 16 years old and still growing into himself, all awkward limbs and uncertain movements. The boy swung the hammer with determination but little skill, missing the nail twice before finally driving it home. 3 months. That was all the time they had lived together. 3 months since Samuel had arrived from Boston with nothing but a battered trunk and eyes hollow with fresh grief. 3 months since Nathan had taken him in, honoring a promise made to a dead man. "You're gripping too tight," Nathan said, his voice rough from disuse. He spoke little these days, and when he did, each word carried weight. "Let the hammer do the work." Samuel adjusted his grip, tried again. This time the nail went straight. "Better?" The boy looked up, a flicker of pride crossing his young face. He resembled his father so much it hurt to look at him sometimes. Same brown hair that caught the light, same thoughtful eyes that seemed to take in everything and reveal nothing. Same stubborn set to his jaw when he was determined not to show weakness. Thomas would have been proud. Nathan turned back to his work, pushing the thought away like he pushed away all thoughts of his brother. 3 years had passed since Thomas died. 3 years, and the wound still felt fresh as yesterday. "Grandpa Nathan," Samuel said, then stopped himself. He had taken to calling him that recently, though they had agreed Nathan was sufficient. "Why don't you hire help? The work is hard." Nathan drove another nail home before answering. The boy was trying to be respectful, trying not to mention age directly, good manners from his Boston upbringing. But out here in this hard country, there was no room for pretty words. "I'm old, you mean to say?" Samuel flushed. "I didn't. Old isn't useless, boy. Not yet." Nathan tested the fence post, satisfied with its stability. "Besides, hired help costs money. Money I don't have to spare." It was the truth, though not the whole truth. Nathan had lived alone by choice for too long to easily accept another man's presence. The solitude had become a kind of armor, protecting him from having to explain himself, from having to maintain the small courtesies that society demanded. Samuel was different. Samuel was family. Samuel was the promise. They worked in comfortable silence as the sun continued its descent. The land stretched endlessly around them, 5 acres of stubborn earth that Nathan had coaxed into something resembling productivity. His cabin stood 200 yards away, a simple structure of pine logs with a cedar shake roof. Smoke curled from the stone chimney. The horse barn sat to the left, housing 4 horses and 2 mules. A well, 40 feet deep with a hand crank, marked the center of the small homestead. It wasn't much, but it was his, or at least he had believed it was his, until Thomas's journal revealed otherwise. Nathan pushed that thought away too, one problem at a time. Right now, the fence needed mending before winter came. Everything else could wait. The horses whinnied suddenly, an edge of nervousness in the sound. Nathan straightened, hand instinctively moving toward the Colt Navy 1851 at his hip. The revolver had been with him since the war, through Gettysburg and Antietam and all the bloody spaces in between. Its weight was as familiar as his own bones. "What is it?" Samuel asked, picking up on the tension immediately. "Probably nothing. Coyote, maybe." But Nathan's eyes swept the landscape with the practiced efficiency of a man who had survived too many ambushes to ever fully relax. "Keep working. Stay alert." They continued for another hour as twilight painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. The temperature dropped quickly, as it always did in the high desert. Nathan's breath began to mist in the cooling air. His joints protested each movement, the old injury in his left shoulder from Gettysburg making itself known. "That's enough for today," he finally said. "We'll finish tomorrow." Samuel set down his hammer with visible relief. The boy worked hard, Nathan had to give him that. No complaints, even when the blisters on his palms cracked open and bled. Thomas had raised him right, even if he had raised him in the soft world of Boston streets and gas lamps. They gathered their tools and started back toward the cabin, leading the horses. The light was fading fast now, that brief window between day and night when the desert seemed to hold its breath. That was when Nathan heard it, a sound that did not belong, soft, pained, barely audible above the whisper of wind through the mesquite bushes, the kind of sound that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. Human breathing, hurt and trying to hide. Nathan held up his hand, stopping Samuel. The boy froze, eyes wide with sudden fear. Nathan drew his Colt smoothly, the motion as natural as drawing breath. He moved toward the sound, boots silent on the dusty ground. Behind a cluster of rocks near a dry creek bed, he found her. An Apache woman, young, collapsed against the stone like a broken bird. Her deerskin dress hung in tatters, exposing her shoulders where deep scratches marked the skin. Dark bruises circled her wrists like bracelets of violence. Her hair, traditionally braided and decorated with leather ties and small feathers, was matted with dust and blood. Her feet, bare except for the remnants of torn moccasins, were cut and swollen. She looked up as Nathan approached, and the terror in her eyes hit him like a physical blow. She tried to move, to crawl away, but her strength was gone. Instead, she slowly raised her hands in a gesture of submission that made Nathan's stomach turn. Then she did something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. She knelt. With shaking limbs and obvious pain, the young woman forced herself onto her knees. Her head bowed. Her voice, when it came, was barely a whisper. "Please don't kill me, old white man. I will do anything you want. Anything. Just please let me live." The words hung in the desert air like smoke. Nathan felt something crack inside his chest, some wall he had built between himself and the rest of humanity. This woman, whoever she was, had been so thoroughly brutalized that her first instinct upon seeing another man was to beg for her life while offering herself as payment. He holstered his gun slowly, making sure she could see the movement. "Nobody's going to hurt you," he said, keeping his voice low and steady. "What's your name?" She lifted her head slightly, confusion flickering across features tight with fear. Her lips, cracked and bleeding, moved soundlessly before she managed to speak. "Ayanna. Ayanna, Nathan repeated. He glanced back at Samuel, who stood frozen with shock. "Boy, get me the canteen and a blanket." Samuel shook himself out of his stupor and ran toward the horses. Nathan turned back to the woman. "Ayanna." She watched him with the wariness of a wild animal, ready to bolt despite her obvious injuries. "Can you stand?" She tried. Nathan saw the effort it cost her, saw the way her legs trembled, and threatened to give out. He stepped forward carefully, telegraphing every movement, and offered his arm for support. Ayanna stared at his extended hand like it might be a snake. Then, with visible hesitation, she reached out. Her fingers were cold as ice, her grip weak. The moment their hands touched, something passed between them. Recognition, perhaps. Not of each other, but of shared pain. Shared survival. Nathan helped her to her feet, supporting most of her weight. Samuel arrived with the canteen and blanket, his young face pale with concern. "Here," Nathan said, offering the water. Ayanna took it with shaking hands and drank desperately, water spilling down her chin. When she finally lowered the canteen, she was breathing hard. Nathan draped the blanket around her shoulders. She pulled it tight, hiding the torn fabric of her dress. "Who did this to you?" Nathan asked. Ayanna's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. When she spoke, her voice was stronger, though still threaded with fear. "3 men, white men. They came to my village 3 days ago, said they wanted to buy horses, but when it got dark..." She swallowed hard. "They grabbed me, tied me, said someone up north would pay good money for Apache women." Samuel made a sound of disgust. Nathan felt cold rage settle in his gut, the kind of anger that had gotten him through the war, the controlled fury that made him dangerous. "Where were they taking you?" "A ranch near Santa Fe. They talked about it when they thought I was asleep. A man named Thornton, Caleb Thornton." The name meant nothing to Nathan, but he filed it away. How did you escape? Last night, they camped by the Rio Grande. One of them got drunk, passed out. The other two, they were distracted, fighting over something. I ran, just ran. I ran all night until I couldn't run anymore. Until I fell here. Her voice broke on the last word. The tears she had been holding back finally spilled over. Nathan looked at Samuel, saw his own emotions reflected in the boy's face. Anger, disgust, and something else. Determination. Can you ride? Nathan asked. Ayanna nodded, though her legs were still shaking. Samuel, help me get her on the horse. We're taking her home. They rode slowly through the gathering darkness. Nathan in front with Samuel behind, Ayanna seated on Nathan's horse between them. She swayed with exhaustion, and more than once Nathan had to steady her. Each time she flinched at his touch, and each time it drove the knife of anger deeper into his chest. What kind of men did this? What kind of world allowed it? But he knew the answer. He had seen enough of human cruelty during the war, had seen men reduced to animals by greed and fear, had seen women and children caught in the machinery of violence that men created and called necessary. The cabin appeared ahead, lamplight glowing warm in the windows. Home, such as it was. Nathan helped Ayanna down from the horse, supporting her weight as they walked to the door. Samuel hurried ahead to open it, and warm air rushed out to greet them. Inside, the cabin was simple but clean. One main room served as kitchen, dining area, and parlor. A stone fireplace dominated one wall. A single bedroom was tucked in the back, where Nathan and Samuel had been sleeping on narrow cots. The furniture was handmade, rough but sturdy. A rifle hung on the wall above the fireplace. Everything spoke of function over comfort, of a life stripped down to essentials. Nathan guided Ayanna to a chair near the fire. She sank into it like her strings had been cut. Samuel, get the medical kit and heat some water. While the boy busied himself with tasks, Nathan knelt in front of Ayanna. He was careful to stay at a respectful distance, aware of how his proximity might frighten her. I need to check your injuries. I won't touch you without your permission. Ayanna looked at him for a long moment, searching his face for deception. Whatever she saw there must have satisfied her, because she nodded slowly. Nathan examined her methodically, years of battlefield medicine coming back to him. The wrist injuries were the worst, deep grooves where rough hemp rope had cut into skin, the kind of mark made by someone struggling desperately to escape. Her ankle was badly swollen, probably a severe sprain rather than a break. The scratches on her shoulders were superficial but needed cleaning. He worked efficiently, washing the wounds with carbolic soap, a relatively new antiseptic method he had read about. The medical world was changing, slowly learning that cleanliness prevented infection. Nathan had seen too many men die of infected wounds to ignore such advances. Ayanna bore his ministrations in silence, only occasionally hissing through her teeth when he touched a particularly tender spot. Samuel brought soup, simple fare made from dried beef and potatoes, but hot and nourishing. Ayanna ate like she was starving, which she probably was. When had she last eaten? Before the men took her? 3 days ago? Only when she finished did Nathan sit back and allow himself to truly look at her. Despite the injuries and exhaustion, Ayanna possessed a quiet dignity. Her eyes, dark as river stones, held intelligence and strength. This was not a woman who broke easily. Whatever she had endured, she had survived. Thank you, she said quietly. You did not have to help me. Yes, Nathan replied, I did. Most white men would not. I'm not most white men. Ayanna studied him, tilting her head slightly. No, I can see that, but why? It was Samuel who answered, surprising them both. Because his brother died helping Apache people, and Grandpa Nathan keeps his promises. The words hung in the air. Nathan felt his throat tighten. The boy had been listening, absorbing more than Nathan had realized. Ayanna's eyes widened. Your brother died for my people? Nathan stood abruptly, uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. You should rest. Take the bed. Samuel and I will sleep out here. No, Ayanna protested. I cannot take your bed. You can and you will. Nathan's tone left no room for argument. Samuel, help her to the room. The boy offered his arm, and Ayanna reluctantly accepted. She limped toward the bedroom, exhaustion evident in every movement. At the doorway, she paused and looked back at Nathan. What will you do if the men come looking for me? Nathan met her gaze steadily. They won't take you. They are three. You are one old man and a boy. I've faced worse odds. Something flickered in Ayana's eyes, respect perhaps, or recognition that he meant every word. Why? She asked again. Why risk yourself for a stranger? For an Apache? Nathan was silent for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with emotion he rarely allowed himself to feel. Because 3 years ago, my brother Thomas saw a family being attacked. Apache family. He could have ridden past. Should have, probably. But he didn't. He stopped. He fought. He saved them. And they killed him for it. Ayana's hand rose to her mouth. The white settlers around here, they didn't understand. Said Thomas had betrayed his own kind. Wouldn't buy my cattle after that. Treated me like I had some kind of disease. But the Apache family he saved, they buried him with honor. Gave me this. Nathan touched the turquoise necklace at his throat, hidden beneath his shirt. Told me Thomas died as a warrior should, protecting the helpless. He looked directly at Ayana. Before he died, Thomas wrote me a letter. Said if anything happened to him, I had to take care of Samuel. Teach him to be a good man, a man of honor. I made a promise to my dead brother. I keep my promises. Tears streamed down Ayana's face now. Your brother, he had a noble heart. Yes, and Samuel deserves to learn what that means. So when I saw you there, begging for your life, offering yourself just to survive, Nathan's jaw clenched. I couldn't walk away. Won't walk away. Those men who took you, they're going to learn that some things are different. Some people fight back. Ayana wiped her eyes, straightened her spine. When she spoke, her voice was steady. I am the daughter of Chief Neshoba. My father signed a peace treaty with your government 2 months ago. If I disappear, if I am killed, my father will believe the whites have broken faith. War will come. Many will die. Nathan felt ice settle in his stomach. This was bigger than he had realized. Much bigger. That's why they took you? To start a war? I believe so. A man like Thornton, if he wants Apache land, war gives him the excuse to take it. Samuel, who had been standing quietly, spoke up. Then we have to get you back to your father. We have to stop the war. It's not that simple, Nathan said. If those men are still looking for her, the roads will be watched. And if they catch us, he didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Then what do we do? Samuel asked. Nathan looked between the boy and the young woman, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders like it had during the war. He had tried to escape this, tried to live quietly, bothering no one, asking nothing of anyone. But some responsibilities could not be escaped. Some promises demanded to be kept. First, we make sure Ayana is safe. Then we figure out the rest. Ayana nodded, accepting this. She limped into the bedroom and closed the door. Through the thin walls, Nathan could hear her moving around, settling onto the bed. Samuel looked at his grandfather. They'll come for her, won't they? Yes. And we'll fight them? Nathan studied the boy, 16 years old, Emil. Should be worried about school and girls and the normal concerns of youth. Instead, he was asking about fighting grown men, asking with determination in his young eyes. I'll fight them, Nathan said firmly. You'll stay safe. No. Samuel's voice was quiet but absolute. Dad taught me to stand up for what's right. You're teaching me the same thing. I won't hide while you fight alone. Nathan wanted to argue, wanted to protect this boy from the ugliness that was coming. But looking at Samuel's face, he saw Thomas there, saw the same stubborn honor that had gotten his brother killed. Maybe some things ran in the blood. All right, Nathan said finally, but you follow my orders. No heroics. Understand? Yes, sir. They set about preparing for the night. Nathan checked his weapons. The Colt Navy had 6 rounds. His Winchester rifle held 15. He had perhaps 50 rounds total in the cabin. Not much for a sustained fight. He went outside to check the perimeter, moving quietly through the darkness. The horses were nervous, shifting in their stalls. Something had them spooked. Nathan crouched, running his fingers over the ground near the fence line. There. Fresh tracks, horse prints, moving in a slow circle around the property. Someone had been here, recently, scouting. His jaw tightened. They had less time than he thought. Back inside, he found Samuel sitting at the table, cleaning the rifle with practiced hands. The boy had learned well these past 3 months. "We have company coming," Nathan said quietly. "Probably tomorrow." Samuel's hands stilled. "How many?" "Can't tell from the tracks. At least 2, maybe more." "What do we do?" Nathan sat across from him, feeling every one of his 59 years. "We prepare, board up some windows, check our ammunition, make sure we have water, food, then we wait. And when they come, we negotiate if we can, fight if we must." Samuel met his eyes. "You think they will negotiate?" "No, men who steal women don't negotiate. They take. Then we fight." Nathan nodded slowly. "Then we fight." They worked through the night, taking turns sleeping and standing watch. Nathan took the first watch, sitting in the darkness with his rifle across his knees. The desert night was cold and clear, stars scattered across the sky like thrown sand. Beautiful and indifferent. He thought about Thomas, about the letter his brother had written, carefully penned words that now sat in a lockbox under the floorboards, about the promise he had made, about the boy sleeping fitfully near the fire. Samuel had lost so much. First his father, then his mother, to consumption just 3 months ago. The boy had come west expecting to find family, to find a home. Instead, he had walked into violence and danger. But he had not run, had not complained, had simply rolled up his sleeves and gotten to work. There was steel in the boy, forged by loss. Thomas would have been proud. At midnight, Nathan woke Samuel for his watch. The boy sat up immediately, alert. "Anything?" he asked. "Quiet. Too quiet. Wake me if you hear anything unusual." Nathan lay down on the hard floor, his body protesting. Sleep came slowly, interrupted by old dreams of old battles. Gettysburg, the stone wall, the smell of blood and powder smoke, the screams of dying men. He jerked awake to Samuel's hand on his shoulder. "Grandpa, Dawn's coming, and there's something you need to see." Nathan was on his feet instantly, rifle in hand. He moved to the window, peering through the gap in the shutters. 3 horses stood at the edge of the clearing. 3 men sat mounted, waiting. As the sun broke the horizon behind them, they became silhouettes against the light. Dark figures that could have been demons rising from hell itself. One of them raised a hand, a signal perhaps, or a greeting, or a threat. "Stay here," Nathan told Samuel. "Watch Ayanna. If shooting starts, get her to the root cellar under the kitchen." "But do it." Nathan stepped outside, carrying his rifle loosely in his hands. Not aimed, but ready. Always ready. The 3 men did not move. They simply waited, letting him come to them. Confident, arrogant. As Nathan drew closer, he could make out their features. The one in the middle was clearly the leader. Older than the others, maybe early 50s, with gray stubble and coal blue eyes. He wore a duster coat and a battered hat. A revolver hung at his hip. The man to his left was younger, late 20s, with red hair and a scar running down his cheek. Mean-looking, the kind of mean that came from enjoying cruelty. The third was heavy-set, 40-ish, with a round face and small eyes. He held a rifle across his saddle. "Morning," the leader said. His voice was casual, like they were neighbors meeting at a property line. "Name's Marcus Webb. We're looking for something that belongs to us." Nathan stopped 20 feet away. "Nothing here belongs to you." Marcus smiled, though it never reached his eyes. "See, that's where you're wrong, old-timer. We're missing a piece of property. Young Apache woman. We tracked her here to your place." "Don't know what you're talking about." "No?" Marcus leaned forward in his saddle. "Then you won't mind if we take a look around, just to be sure." "I do mind. This is private property. You're not welcome." The redhead spoke up, his voice harsh. "Listen, Grandpa, we ain't asking. That woman is worth $2,000 to our employer. We're not leaving without her." Nathan's grip on the rifle tightened slightly. "Maybe you didn't hear me. You're not welcome here. Turn around, right away, while you still can." Marcus studied him for a long moment. "You know, you seem familiar. Have we met?" "Don't think so." "Sure about that? Because there's something about you. The way you stand, the way you hold that rifle, like a soldier. Nathan said nothing. Were you in the war? Marcus pressed. Long time ago. Which side? The side that won. Marcus's eyes narrowed, then suddenly widened. Wait, Graves, Nathan Graves. 2nd Virginia Infantry, Gettysburg, Cemetery Hill. Nathan felt his blood run cold. How do you know that? Because I was there too, fought next to you and your brother Thomas. Damn. Marcus shook his head. Small world, Nathan, small world. The other two men exchanged glances, confused by this turn. Nathan's mind raced. Marcus Webb. The name tugged at memory. Cemetery Hill. The desperate defense. Men fighting and dying in the summer heat. And yes, there had been a Marcus. Young then, brave with the same blue eyes. Marcus Webb, Nathan said slowly. You were a sergeant. And you were a lieutenant. Saved my life twice, if I recall. Once when that rebel bayonet nearly got me, and again when you dragged me behind the wall when I got shot. Different times, yeah. Marcus's voice turned bitter. Different times, back when we thought we were fighting for something that mattered. Before we learned that honor doesn't pay the bills. What happened to you, Marcus? We fought for the right side, fought to free people, and now you're trafficking in them? Don't preach at me, Nathan. The war ended. We went home, or tried to, but there was nothing there. No jobs, no prospects, just poverty and people who didn't want to remember what we'd done. So I did what I had to do to survive. By becoming exactly what we fought against. Marcus's face hardened. Easy to judge from your high horse. But I got a daughter to feed. She needs medicine, needs care, and this job pays. So save your righteousness. Nathan felt a flicker of something. Not quite pity, but understanding. The war had broken so many men, had taken their ideals and ground them into the mud. But understanding did not mean acceptance. I'm sorry about your daughter, Nathan said. Truly, but you're not taking the woman in my house. That's final. The heavy-set man spoke for the first time. Mr. Webb, we don't got time for this. Let's just rush him. He's one old man. Shut up, Tom, Marcus said without looking away from Nathan. This old man could probably kill all three of us before we cleared leather. I know. I saw him do it at Gettysburg. Tom and the redhead shifted nervously in their saddles. Marcus sighed. Nathan, I'm going to give you something I don't give many people. A choice. Hand over the woman and I'll give you $500. That's more than most men see in a year. You can live comfortable, or, he let the word hang, or we come back with more men, and we take her anyway. And you and whoever's in that cabin with you, you don't survive it. Nathan thought of Samuel, thought of the boy's faith in him, in the idea that doing right mattered. Thought of Thomas, dying to save strangers because it was the right thing to do. Some choices weren't really choices at all. Come back if you want, Nathan said quietly. Bring your army, but you're not getting her. Not now, not ever. Marcus stared at him for a long moment. Then he shook his head slowly, something like regret crossing his face. You always were the stubbornest son of a bitch I ever met. That's going to get you killed. Maybe, but I'll die standing. Yeah, Marcus turned his horse. You will. I'll give you one day, Nathan. One day to change your mind. After that, we're coming, and I won't be able to stop what happens. The three men rode away, disappearing into the morning light. Nathan stood watching until they were specks on the horizon. Then he walked slowly back to the cabin. Samuel was waiting at the door, pale but steady. I heard. Good, then you know what's coming. They'll be back. Yes. With more men. Yes, Samuel took a deep breath. Then we need to be ready. Nathan looked at the boy, really looked at him, saw not a child but a young man standing at the threshold of something terrible, standing there willingly because he believed it was right. Samuel, Nathan said carefully, this isn't your fight. You could take one of the horses, ride to Fort Stanton, the army would protect you. And leave you? Leave Ayanna? To save your life, yes. Samuel's jaw set in that stubborn line Nathan recognized. No, Dad didn't run when that Apache family needed help. You're not running now, neither am I. Pride and fear warred in Nathan's chest. Pride won, but only barely. All right then, let's get to work. They spent the morning fortifying the cabin, Nathan showed Samuel how to reinforce the doors with extra timber, how to create firing positions at the windows, how to calculate fields of fire, all the brutal mathematics of survival. Ayanna emerged from the bedroom, limping but determined. "What can I do?" "Rest," Nathan said. "Heal." "No, if you fight for me, I fight beside you." "You can barely walk." "Then I will fight sitting down." Nathan almost smiled. "Almost. Can you shoot?" "My father taught me, not rifles, but I learned fast." He showed her how to load and fire the rifle, how to work the lever action, how to aim. She absorbed the information quickly, her hands steady despite her injuries. By midday, the cabin looked more like a fort. Provisions were stacked near the walls, water buckets filled and ready, weapons loaded and positioned. They had done everything they could. Now came the waiting. Samuel found Nathan standing on the porch, staring out at the empty land. "Grandpa?" "Yes?" "Are we going to die?" The question was asked without drama, just simple curiosity. A boy trying to understand the world. Nathan considered lying, considered offering false comfort. But Samuel deserved truth. "Maybe, probably not, but maybe." "Are you scared?" "Yes." Samuel seemed surprised by the admission. "But you fought in the war. You faced worse than this." "Being scared isn't about experience," Nathan said. "It's about having something to lose. In the war, I was young and stupid and didn't really believe I could die. Now I'm old enough to know better. And I have you to worry about." "I'm sorry I'm making this harder for you." Nathan turned to face him. "No, you're making it worth it. Everything I do so that you can live in a world where doing the right thing still matters. Where promises are kept. Where honor means something. Like Dad. Like your dad. Like you're going to be." They stood together in silence, grandfather and grandson, waiting for the violence they knew was coming. The sun climbed higher. The heat built. Nothing moved on the horizon. Mid-afternoon, Ayanna joined them. She had fashioned a crutch from a piece of wood, allowing her to walk without assistance. "I want to tell you something," she said, "about my father, about why this matters." They listened as she spoke of Chief Neshoba, of the peace treaty, of the delicate balance that kept the territory from erupting into war. She spoke of her people's history, of the promises broken, the treaties ignored. She spoke of hope, fragile and precious, that maybe this time would be different. "If I die," she said quietly, "my father will believe the whites killed me. The treaty will end, war will come, hundreds will die, maybe thousands, all because men like Thornton want land they have no right to." "We won't let that happen," Samuel said with absolute conviction. Ayanna smiled sadly. "You are a good boy, but you do not understand how big this is, how powerful these men are." "Don't need to understand it," Samuel replied. "Just need to stand against it." Nathan felt his chest tighten with emotion he rarely allowed himself. The boy had learned well. Too well, perhaps. Evening came. They ate a simple meal, knowing it might be their last peaceful dinner. Nathan told stories of the war, carefully edited versions that left out the worst horrors. Samuel listened with bright eyes. Ayanna watched them both, something like wonder on her face. "You are a strange family," she said, "but a good one." "Not family," Nathan corrected gently. "Not by blood. Blood does not make family. Choice does, and you have chosen each other." She was right, Nathan realized. This boy who had arrived 3 months ago a stranger. This woman he had found broken and afraid just yesterday. Somehow they had become something that mattered, something worth protecting. Night fell like a curtain. They took turns on watch. Nathan took first shift, sitting in darkness with his rifle. The stars wheeled overhead, indifferent to human drama. Sometime after midnight, Nathan heard it, the faint jingle of a bridle, the soft snuffle of horses. They were out there, watching, waiting. He woke Samuel with a hand on his shoulder. "They're here." Samuel was alert immediately. "How many?" "Can't tell yet, but more than 3. They roused Ayanna, who hobbled to her position near the back window. Each of them knew their role, had practiced it throughout the day. The attack, when it came, started with a voice from the darkness. "Nathan Graves, last chance. Send the woman out, and we'll let you live." Nathan did not respond. Words were useless now. Have it your way! A torch arced through the air, landing on the roof. Then another. Fire blossomed in the night. Samuel, the water, Nathan barked. The boy grabbed a bucket and scrambled up the ladder to the loft, poured water on the flames. Another torch came. Then gunfire, rattling against the thick log walls. Nathan fired back, aiming for muzzle flashes, heard a scream. One down. Samuel came sliding back down the ladder. More coming from the back. Ayanna, you got the back window? Yes. She fired, the crack of the rifle loud in the enclosed space. Another scream from outside. For 20 minutes it was chaos. Fire and smoke and gunfire. Nathan lost track of time, of everything except loading and firing, shouting commands, keeping his small family alive. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Silence fell. Nathan's ears rang. Smoke stung his eyes. His shoulder ached from the rifle's recoil. Everyone all right? He called. Yes, Samuel answered. Yes, Ayanna confirmed. They waited, listened. Outside, horses moved away, retreating. It wasn't over. This was just the first test. As dawn approached, Nathan finally allowed himself to relax slightly. They had survived. For now, Samuel slumped against the wall, exhausted but uninjured. Ayanna sat by her window, rifle still in her hands, looking like a warrior from ancient times. You did good, Nathan told them both. Real good. They'll come back, Ayanna said. I know. With more men. I know. We cannot win. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then he stood, walked to the small, locked box under the floorboards, pulled out Thomas's journal, the one Samuel had found in the loft weeks ago, but hadn't fully understood. There might be a way, Nathan said slowly. Your father, Ayanna, Chief Neshoba, he knew Thomas. They talked about the land rights, about the old treaties. He opened the journal to the last entry. Read it aloud. August 1882. Today I met with a lawyer in Santa Fe. He confirmed what Chief Neshoba told me. The Treaty of 1868 gives the Apache permanent rights to the land from Rio Blanco to the Sacramento Mountains. The government cannot legally sell this land. I have obtained a copy of the original treaty, hidden it somewhere safe. This could change everything. This could bring justice. Samuel leaned forward. Where did he hide it? Nathan shook his head. The next page is torn out, but there's this. He touched the turquoise necklace at his throat. The Apache family gave me this after Thomas died, said it was a key to justice. I always thought it was just a metaphor. Ayanna gasped. May I see it? Nathan removed the necklace, handed it to her. She turned it over in her hands, examining the stone carefully. Then her fingers found something, a tiny seam in the turquoise itself. There, she breathed, a hidden compartment. She pried at it gently. The stone split open. Inside, tucked into a space barely larger than a fingernail, was a tiny rolled piece of paper. Ayanna unrolled it with shaking hands. On it, in Thomas's neat handwriting, was an address. Fort Union Archive, Box 247. Fort Union is 60 miles from here, Nathan said. A day's hard ride. If the treaty Thomas mentioned is there, then Thornton has no legal claim to the land, Samuel finished. His whole scheme falls apart. But we have one day, Ayanna said. Marcus Webb gave you one day. It is almost gone. Fort Union is 2 days round trip. Nathan looked at Samuel. Unless someone takes the mountain route, dangerous but faster, could do it in 18 hours. I'll go, Samuel said immediately. No. You're injured from the fight. Ayanna can't ride. It has to be me. Nathan wanted to refuse, wanted to keep the boy safe, but Samuel was right. And more than that, this was the moment when a boy became a man, when he chose to step forward, knowing the risks, just like Thomas had. All right, Nathan said, the word tearing out of him. But you take the rifle and you ride like hell. Don't stop for anything. Samuel stood, determination written in every line of his young body. He looked so much like his father in that moment that Nathan's throat closed. I'll make it, Samuel said. I promise, he prepared quickly. Packed light, took the fastest horse. As he mounted up, Nathan grabbed his arm. Samuel, listen to me. Your life is more important than that paper. You understand? If you run into trouble, you run. You survive. I understand, but I'm going to do both. Get the treaty and survive. Because you and Ayana are counting on me. He rode out as the sun crested the horizon, a young rider racing against time and fate. Nathan watched until he disappeared from sight, then turned to find Ayana standing beside him, balanced on her crutch. He will make it, she said. He has the spirit of his father and the heart of his grandfather. I hope that's enough. Hope is all we have. Hope and each other. They went back inside the battered cabin and prepared to hold it for one more day. Just one more day. Then everything would change. The morning sun climbed slowly over the New Mexico territory, painting the scrubland in shades of copper and gold. Nathan Graves stood at the cabin window, watching the empty horizon where Samuel had disappeared hours ago. His grandson, his responsibility, his promise to a dead brother, now riding toward danger through mountain passes that could kill a man a dozen different ways. 59 years old, and Nathan had never felt more helpless. Behind him, Ayana moved about the cabin with surprising efficiency despite her injured ankle. She had refused to remain idle, had insisted on helping prepare for what they both knew was coming. Now she was checking their ammunition, counting bullets with the focused intensity of someone who understood exactly what those numbers meant. 42 rounds for the Winchester, she said quietly. 18 for your revolver. Not enough. Never is. Nathan turned from the window, studying her in the morning light. Yesterday she had been a broken thing, terrified and begging for her life. Today she moved like a warrior preparing for battle, her dark eyes clear and determined. The transformation was remarkable. Or perhaps she had always been this way, and terror had simply obscured her true nature. You should tell me about your father, Nathan said, about Chief Neshoba, in case... He didn't finish the sentence. Ayana understood. In case Samuel didn't make it back. In case they died here today. Someone should know the full story. She settled into a chair, wincing as her ankle protested. My father is 62 years old, and he has seen more war than any man should. Fought the Spanish, the Mexicans, the Americans, lost 2 wives, 3 sons, countless brothers. When I was born, he named me Ayana. It means eternal blossom. He said I was his hope that something beautiful could grow even in blood-soaked soil. Nathan listened, hearing the love in her voice, the pain. 2 months ago, representatives from your government came. They offered a treaty. Real peace, they said. Land rights guaranteed. No more raids, no more war. My father did not trust them. But he was tired, so tired of watching our people die. So he signed. And men like Thornton saw opportunity, Nathan said. Yes, if the treaty holds, the land stays Apache. But if war starts again, if we break the peace, then the government can take it all. Legally, Thornton and men like him can buy it for nothing. She looked at Nathan directly. I am not just a woman to them. I am a trigger. A way to start a war without appearing to start it. The calculation was brutally simple. Kidnap the chief's daughter. Make it look like settlers did it. The Apache attack in revenge. The government declares them hostile, tears up the treaty, opens the land for sale. Everyone profits except the people who were there first. Your brother understood this, Ayana continued. He found proof. The treaty my father signed is binding. The land cannot be sold, cannot be taken. But paper means nothing if no one enforces it. Samuel will get that paper. He'll bring it back. You have great faith in a boy. He's not just a boy anymore. He became a man the moment he chose to ride out. Ayana smiled sadly. You care for him deeply, as my father cares for me. That is why this works. That is why men like Thornton can threaten us. Because we love, and love makes us vulnerable. Nathan had no answer to that. She was right. Love was the greatest weapon anyone could use against you. He had learned that when Thomas died, had sworn never to let anyone matter that much again. Then Samuel arrived, and Nathan found himself caring despite his best efforts. Now here he stood, waiting for armed men to come kill him, all because he couldn't turn away from a stranger in need. Thomas would have laughed at the irony. Tell me about the war, Ayana said suddenly, the one you fought. Nathan tensed. He rarely spoke of those years. The memories were too heavy, too stained with blood and failure. Why? Because I want to understand the man who is willing to die for me, and because we may not have many more chances to talk. She was right about that too. Nathan settled into his chair, rifle across his knees, eyes still watching the window. When he spoke, his voice was distant, remembering. I was 23 when it started, young and stupid and full of ideas about glory. My brother Thomas was only 8, too young to go. He begged me not to leave, but I went anyway. Thought I was going to save the Union. Thought I'd be home by Christmas. But you were not. No, 4 years. 4 years of mud and blood and watching boys die screaming for their mothers. Gettysburg was the worst. July 1863, hottest summer I ever lived through. We held Cemetery Hill against wave after wave of Confederate attacks. Men fell like wheat before a scythe. The ground turned red. The air tasted like copper. He paused, seeing it all again. The stone wall, the smoke. Marcus Webb, younger then, bleeding from a shoulder wound but still fighting. That's where I met Marcus. He was brave, I'll give him that. Stupid brave, the kind that gets you killed. Saved his life twice that day. He saved mine once. When you fight beside a man like that, bleed beside him, you think you know him, think you can trust him forever. But people change, Ayanna said quietly. Yeah, war changes some men for the better, makes them stronger, gives them purpose, changes others for the worse. Marcus, he came home to find his wife dead, his farm gone, his daughter starving. The world had moved on without him, so he did what he had to do. Started taking jobs that required a hard man with no conscience. Started doing things that would have shamed the soldier he used to be. You pity him. I understand him. There's a difference. Nathan looked at her. Understanding doesn't mean accepting. He made his choices. Now he has to live with them. Or die with them. Or die with them. They fell silent. Outside, a hawk circled lazily on thermal currents, hunting. Beautiful and deadly. Nathan envied its simplicity. Hawks didn't wrestle with conscience. They just survived. Around mid-morning, Nathan spotted movement on the horizon. Not riders yet, just dust rising in the distance. Someone was coming. Ayanna, get to your position. She moved immediately, taking her spot by the back window. They had cleared firing lanes, stacked furniture for cover, prepared as best they could. But Nathan had fought enough battles to know that preparation only went so far. Eventually, it came down to will. Who wanted to live more? Who was willing to pay the higher price? The dust cloud grew closer, resolved into shapes. Riders. Nathan counted them carefully. 8. No, 9. More than he had expected. How many? Ayanna called. Too many, Nathan replied honestly. 9 that I can see. He heard her sharp intake of breath. 9 against 2. 9 healthy men against 1 old soldier and an injured woman. The mathematics were brutal, but mathematics didn't account for everything. The riders stopped at the edge of rifle range, just beyond easy shooting distance. Smart. They were being cautious now, after losing men in last night's attack. They had learned to respect what waited in this cabin. Marcus Webb rode forward alone, hands visible and empty, a white flag tied to his saddle. Nathan stepped out onto the porch, rifle ready, but not aimed. That flag doesn't mean much coming from a man who tried to burn me out last night. Marcus reined in his horse. In the morning light, Nathan could see the exhaustion on his old comrade's face, the lines of stress. This was eating at him. That wasn't supposed to happen, Marcus called. I told them to wait. They got impatient. Men died because of that impatience. I know, and I'm sorry for that, but it doesn't change what has to happen here, Nathan. Then why the flag? Why talk? Marcus was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice carried a note of genuine regret. Because I owe you, for Gettysburg, for pulling me behind that wall when the mini-A ball took me in the shoulder. I owe you my life. Then honor that debt. Right away. Can't do that, my daughter. Nathan. She's dying. Consumption. Same thing that killed my wife. The doctors in Tucson say there's a sanatorium in California that might save her. Might, but it costs money I don't have. Thornton's paying me $2,000 for this job. That's enough. Enough to maybe give my little girl a chance. Nathan felt his chest tighten. A daughter dying, a father desperate. He understood that desperation, could feel it in his own bones when he thought of Samuel out there in the mountains. But understanding still didn't mean accepting. I have a grandson, Nathan said, 16 years old, only family I got left. And I'm teaching him that some things matter more than survival, that a man's word matters, that protecting the helpless matters. If I hand over Ayana to save my own skin, what does that teach him? It teaches him that his grandfather is alive. That's a pretty good lesson. No, it teaches him that principles are just pretty words until they cost something. And then we abandon them. I won't do that. Can't do that. Marcus closed his eyes. Damn you, Nathan. Damn your stubborn honor. Don't you understand? We're not young men anymore. We don't have to prove anything. We did our fighting. We earned the right to look away. No, we earned the responsibility to stand firm. That's what the war was supposed to be about, wasn't it? Standing against evil? Or did all those boys die for nothing? They died because old men with ideas sent young men to kill each other. That's all war ever is. Maybe, but we still have to live with what we did, what we failed to do. I failed my brother, Marcus. He died doing the right thing while I was miles away, safe. I live with that every day. I won't fail again. Marcus opened his eyes and Nathan saw tears there. Actual tears on the face of a man who had survived Gettysburg. Then I can't help you. Thornton's men, they're not like me. They don't have debts or memories or honor. They're killers, Nathan, pure and simple, and they're going to come through that door whether you're ready or not. Let them come. What about the boy? Samuel? You willing to let him die too? Samuel's not here. He's safe. Marcus's eyes sharpened. Where? Nathan said nothing. Damn it, Nathan. Where did you send him? None of your concern. Marcus stared at him for long seconds. Then understanding dawned. The treaty. Thomas's journal. You sent the boy for the treaty. Nathan kept his face carefully blank, but Marcus knew him too well. Fort Union, Marcus said. Marcus looked away, conflict written across his weathered face. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, so quietly Nathan almost didn't hear. That mountain route. It's dangerous. Lots of places for an ambush. Samuel knows the risks. Does he know Thornton's probably sending riders after him right now? Marcus met Nathan's eyes. Fast riders. Men who won't hesitate to kill a boy. Nathan felt ice in his stomach, but kept his expression neutral. Marcus shook his head slowly. I told Thornton I'd bring the woman back, but I never said when. He glanced back at his men, then back to Nathan. Takes time to organize an assault. Check weapons. Rest the horses. Could take, I don't know, 6, maybe 8 hours before we're ready to move. Shame if that delayed anyone else too. Understanding passed between them. Marcus was giving Samuel time. Not much, but something. Why? Nathan asked. Because at Gettysburg, you didn't leave me to die when you could have. Because that boy's father died doing the right thing. And because maybe, Marcus's voice dropped, maybe I'm tired of being the man I've become. That's the only place it could be. And the boys taking the mountain road, trying to beat us back. Smart. He rubbed his face wearily. Thornton's going to send riders after him. Fast riders. That boy's in danger, Nathan. Samuel can handle himself. He's 16 years old, going against men who kill for money. He's going to die out there. Then I guess we both made our choices. And we'll both live or die by them. Marcus jerked his horse around, anger and frustration clear in every line of his body. You're a fool, Nathan Graves. An honorable fool, which makes it worse. When they bury you, that honor will make a fine epitaph. But you'll still be dead. He rode back to his men. Nathan watched them confer, saw the gestures, the arguments. Finally, Marcus pointed toward the cabin and rode away, not looking back. The other 8 men remained. Nathan went back inside, found Ayana standing near her window, pale but steady. He offered you a way out, she said. It wasn't a question. Yes. And you refused? Yes. Why? You could have negotiated, saved yourself. Nathan checked his ammunition again, more for something to do than from need. When I was a young soldier, I watched men break under pressure, saw them abandon positions, abandon comrades, abandon everything they believed because fear took over. I swore I'd never be one of them. Swore I'd hold the line no matter what. I held it at Gettysburg. I'll hold it here. Even if it costs you everything? Especially then. That's when it matters most. Ayanna moved closer, balancing on her good leg. Nathan Graves, you are either the bravest man I have ever met or the most foolish. Probably both. She reached out, touched his arm gently. Whatever happens today, know that my father will hear of this. My people will remember. You will not be forgotten. I'm not doing this to be remembered. I know. That is why you will be. They took their positions and waited. The attack, when it came, was methodical, professional. These weren't drunk raiders looking for easy prey. These were men who knew their business. It started with covering fire, rifles crackling from 3 directions. Nathan and Ayanna stayed low, conserving ammunition. The bullets thudded into the log walls, splinters flying but the structure holding firm. Then movement. 2 men sprinting toward the front door, using the covering fire as protection. Nathan rose, sighted, fired. The lead man went down hard, clutching his leg. The second man dove for cover. Nathan fired again, missed. More gunfire from the back. Ayanna returned fire, her shots measured and careful. She had learned well during yesterday's crash course. They are testing us, she called, learning our positions. She was right, this wasn't a real assault. This was reconnaissance by fire, seeing where the defenders were strong, where they were weak. Nathan pulled back from the window, moved to a different position. An old cavalry trick, never fire twice from the same spot. The covering fire increased, focusing on where Nathan had been. Good. They thought they had him pinned. He rose at a different window, found a target, fired. The man dropped, hit in the shoulder. That broke the assault. The attackers pulled back, dragging their wounded with them. Silence fell. 2 down, Nathan said, 6 left. We hurt them. Not enough. They'll come again. Smarter next time. He was reloading when he heard it, a sound that made his blood run cold. Chopping. Rhythmic chopping. They were cutting wood. What are they doing? Ayanna asked. Nathan moved to the front window, peered carefully out. His stomach dropped. Making a battering ram. They're going to try to break down the door. Can they? He examined the door, the reinforced timbers he and Samuel had added. Strong, but everything had its limits. Maybe, depends how determined they are. Then we must stop them before they try. Can't, they're working behind cover, I don't have a clear shot. They listened to the chopping continue. Patient, methodical. The sound of men who had all the time in the world, while their prey had none. Nathan's mind raced, options narrowing. Samuel was still hours away, probably just reaching Fort Union. Even if everything went perfectly, he wouldn't be back until late tonight. Nathan had to hold until then, had to keep Ayanna alive that long. But how? The cabin was strong but not a fortress. 9 men could eventually overwhelm 2 defenders through sheer weight of numbers, unless Nathan could change the mathematics somehow. An idea formed. Dangerous. Almost certainly fatal if it went wrong, but sitting here waiting to be overrun was fatal too. Ayanna, he said slowly, how good a shot are you? I hit what I aim at. Could you hold this position alone for 15, maybe 20 minutes? Her eyes widened. Alone? What are you going to do? Something stupid, something they won't expect. Nathan, no, whatever you are thinking, it is too dangerous. Everything's dangerous now. At least this way we have a chance. He checked his revolver, made sure it was fully loaded. 6 shots would have to be enough. When I go out, they'll focus on me. That's when you move to the front window. Anyone who comes at the door, you shoot. Don't hesitate. Don't think, just shoot. You are going outside, into the open. They will kill you. Maybe, but I'll kill some of them first. And more importantly, I'll disrupt their plan. Right now, they control the pace. We need to change that. Ayanna grabbed his arm. This is madness. You will die. Probably, but you'll live. And Samuel will get back with that treaty. And your father will know what happened here. That's worth dying for. Not to me, not if you die. Nathan covered her hand with his. I'm 59 years old. I've had my time. But you're young. You have a whole life ahead. And Samuel, he needs to come home to something. Needs to know his sacrifice meant something. So I'm asking you to hold this position. Can you do that? Ayana's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. I will hold it. I swear it. Good girl. Nathan moved to the back door, the one facing away from where the attackers had positioned themselves. Took a deep breath, thought of Thomas, of Samuel, of all the men who had died at Gettysburg because someone had to hold the line. Today he would hold the line. He opened the door and ran. The first few seconds were chaos. Shouts of surprise, the crack of rifles, bullets whining past like angry hornets. Nathan sprinted for the nearest cover, a water trough 30 yards from the cabin. A bullet tugged at his sleeve. Another kicked up dust at his feet. Then he was behind the trough, breathing hard, heart hammering. He risked a look. Saw 3 men repositioning, trying to get an angle on him. Saw others moving toward the cabin, taking advantage of the confusion. That's when Ayana opened fire from the front window. The men advancing on the cabin dove for cover as her shots cracked out. One wasn't fast enough. Went down hard. 5 left. Nathan Rose fired 3 quick shots. 2 hit, shattering the planks the men were using for cover. The third went wide. The men scrambled back. This was working. He had disrupted their rhythm, forced them to split their attention. But he was also pinned down now, separated from the cabin, with only a water trough between him and death. He heard the roar of rifles, felt the impact as bullets slammed into the trough. Water began to leak through the holes. Wouldn't take long before the wood failed completely. Nathan reloaded with shaking hands, 3 rounds left in his belt pouch. After that, he was down to what he carried. Movement to his left, a man trying to flank him. Nathan turned, fired. The man dropped with a scream, 4 left. But his position was failing. The trough was being systematically destroyed, wood splintering under repeated impacts. Another minute, maybe 2, and he would have no cover at all. He heard Ayana firing from the cabin. Good, she was holding them off the front. But Nathan could see 2 men circling wide, using the barn as cover. If they got around behind him, he was finished. He fired his last 2 rounds at the circling men, missed both times. They disappeared behind the barn. Nathan's revolver clicked empty. This was it. This was how it ended, trapped behind a disintegrating trough, out of ammunition, with men closing in from 2 sides. He thought of Samuel riding hard through mountain passes. The boy would make it. Nathan was sure of that. Samuel had his father's determination, his grandfather's stubborn refusal to quit. He would get the treaty, would bring it back, would find Nathan's body and know that he had died keeping his promise. Could a man ask for more than that? The 2 men emerged from behind the barn, rifles raised. Nathan tensed, preparing for the bullets that would end this. Then gunfire erupted from an unexpected direction. The 2 men jerked and fell. Behind them stood Marcus Webb, his rifle smoking. What? Nathan couldn't process what he was seeing. Marcus walked forward slowly, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. Behind him, the remaining men looked confused, unsure whether to shoot or wait. I told you, Marcus called out. I owed you a debt for Gettysburg. Reckon this makes us even. One of the other men shouted, Webb, what the hell are you doing? Something I should have done from the start. Standing with my friend instead of against him. Thornton will kill you for this. Let him try. The men hesitated, then began to back away. They were hired killers, not idealists. Without Marcus to lead them, without clear odds in their favor, they wanted no part of this fight. They mounted their horses and rode off, leaving their dead behind. Marcus walked over to where Nathan crouched behind the ruined trough, extended his hand. Help you up, Lieutenant? Nathan took the hand, let Marcus pull him to his feet. His legs were shaking, adrenaline crash hitting hard. Why, Nathan asked? Because you were right about honor, about standing for something. I let Thornton's money twist me into something I hate. My daughter, she deserves a father she can be proud of, not one who sells women like cattle. Your daughter will understand, or she won't. Either way, I'll face her knowing I finally did the right thing. Marcus looked toward the cabin. The woman in there, she's safe? Thanks to you. And the boy, Samuel, riding for Fort Union, should be back by tonight. Marcus nodded slowly. Then my advice is to get ready for Thornton himself. He'll come when he hears his men failed. And he won't come alone. Let him come. You keep saying that. Might want to consider running instead. Nathan managed a tired smile. You know me better than that. Yeah, I do. Marcus mounted his horse. One more thing. There's a woman in Tucson, Sarah Crow. She worked for Thornton. She has records, names of every woman he bought and sold. If your boy gets that treaty, and if Sarah testifies, you can destroy Thornton completely. Where can I find her? She'll find you. I sent word already. She's brave, Nathan. Braver than me. She's been wanting to bring Thornton down for years. Just needed someone to stand with her. Why are you telling me this? Marcus looked at him for a long moment. Because men like us, we don't get many chances to be on the right side of history. The war taught me that. Took me 30 years to remember it. But I'm remembering now. He rode away slowly, back straight, looking more like the sergeant Nathan had known at Gettysburg than the broken man who had attacked the cabin. Nathan stood watching until Marcus disappeared. Then, legs nearly giving out, he stumbled back to the cabin. Ayanna was at the door, tears streaming down her face. You foolish, wonderful man! You could have died! Didn't, though. Only because Marcus changed race. He did right in the end. That's what matters. She helped him inside, and Nathan collapsed into his chair. Every muscle screamed. His hands shook uncontrollably. He was too old for this. Way too old. But he had held the line. One more time. They rested through the afternoon, taking turns on watch. But no one else came. The assault was over. For now. As evening approached, Nathan heard horses. He grabbed his rifle, moved to the window, then relaxed. Samuel was home. The boy looked exhausted, covered in dust, his horse lathered and spent. But he was alive, and he was carrying a leather tube. Nathan was out the door before he could think, pulling Samuel from the saddle, checking him for injuries. I'm okay, Grandpa. I'm okay. You're sure? No one followed you? No one. I was careful. Did you get it? Samuel held up the leather tube. Fort Union Archives, Box 247, just like the note said. They went inside. Samuel practically collapsed into a chair while Nathan carefully extracted the document from the tube. It was old, the paper yellowed with age. But the words were clear. The seal of the United States government pressed into wax at the bottom. And President Andrew Johnson's signature. Bold and unmistakable. Treaty of 1868, Nathan read aloud. Article 3, the land from Rio Grande River to Sacramento Mountains is hereby granted in perpetuity to the Apache people. The government of the United States shall not sell, transfer, or otherwise convey this land under any circumstances. Ayanna pressed her hand to her mouth. It is true, my father was right. The land cannot be sold. Thornton's whole scheme falls apart, Samuel said. Without legal right to the land, he can't profit from a war. He can't buy what doesn't exist. Nathan carefully rolled the treaty back up. This changes everything. With this, we can stop him. Stop all of it. But even as he said it, doubt crept in. Paper was one thing. Enforcement was another. Thornton had money, connections, power. A treaty signed decades ago might not be enough. As if summoning him with the thought, they heard horses again. Many horses. Nathan moved to the window. His blood ran cold. At least 30 riders. In the center, mounted on a white horse, sat a man in an expensive suit. Even from this distance, Nathan could see the arrogance in how he sat. The certainty that he controlled everything he surveyed. Caleb Thornton had come himself. Stay inside, Nathan ordered. Both of you. Grandpa, no. That's an order, Samuel. Nathan stepped out onto the porch, the treaty tube in one hand, his rifle in the other. The 30 men arranged themselves in a semicircle, blocking any escape. In the center, Thornton dismounted with casual grace. He was perhaps 55, silver-haired and handsome in a way that spoke of wealth and privilege. His suit probably cost more than Nathan made in a year. His boots were polished to a mirror shine. Everything about him screamed power. Nathan Graves, Thornton said, his voice smooth as expensive whiskey. I've heard a great deal about you. Stubborn old man who doesn't know when he's beaten. I know exactly when I'm beaten. This isn't it. Thornton smiled. Oh, I think it is. You see, I have 30 men. You have what? 2 bullets left? 3? The mathematics aren't favorable. Mathematics change. Nathan held up the treaty tube, especially when you're operating outside the law. Thornton's smile faltered slightly. What do you have there? The Treaty of 1868. The real one. The one that says you can't buy this land because it belongs to the Apache. The one that makes your whole plan illegal. For the first time, Thornton looked uncertain. Where did you get that? Does it matter? What matters is I have it. And come morning, I'm taking it to the territorial governor, along with testimony about what you've been doing. Kidnapping, trafficking, attempted murder. You're done, Thornton. Thornton was silent for a moment. Then he began to laugh. Actually laugh, head thrown back. You think a piece of paper will stop me? I have senators in my pocket, judges who owe me favors. The governor himself accepted my campaign contribution. That treaty is meaningless without someone to enforce it, and no one will, because I own them all. Not all, said a woman's voice. A rider emerged from the group, a woman perhaps 30, with blonde hair and determined eyes. She dismounted, walked forward to stand beside Nathan. My name is Sarah Crow, she said. I worked for Mr. Thornton for 3 years. I kept records. Every woman he bought, every child, every illegal transaction, and I'm prepared to testify to one in federal court if necessary. Thornton's face went pale. Sarah, I treated you well, gave you a home. You made me a prisoner, but I'm free now, and I'm going to make sure every other woman you hurt goes free too. Thornton's hand moved toward his gun. Nathan's rifle came up instantly. Don't. They stood frozen, 30 guns aimed at Nathan, Nathan's gun aimed at Thornton, Sarah standing firm between them. Into the silence, Ayana's voice called from the cabin. My father is Chief Neshoba. If anything happens to me, war comes. Not just a small war, a real war. Every Apache from here to Arizona territory will fight, and you, Mr. Thornton, will be the reason. Your name will be cursed forever. Thornton's eyes darted toward the cabin, then back to Nathan. He was calculating. Nathan could see it, weighing options, counting pa. This isn't over, Thornton finally said. Yeah, Nathan replied, it is. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Thornton mounted his horse, jerked it around, and rode away. His men followed, leaving Nathan and Sarah standing alone in the dust. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of red that looked like blood and fire and endings. Samuel and Ayana emerged from the cabin. For several heartbeats, the four of them just stood there, not quite believing it was over. Then Samuel laughed, actually laughed, the sound bright and free. We did it. We actually did it. We did, Nathan agreed, feeling suddenly very old and very tired. Ayana moved to Sarah, embraced her. Thank you. You are very brave. No, Sarah said, you are brave. I just finally found my courage. They went inside as darkness fell, built up the fire, ate a simple meal that tasted better than any feast, and slowly the tension began to drain away. Samuel fell asleep first, exhausted from his ride. Sarah and Ayana talked quietly, sharing stories of survival. Nathan sat apart, watching them all, thinking about what had happened. Marcus had found his redemption. Sarah had found her courage. Ayana had found safety. Samuel had found his manhood. And Nathan? What had he found? Purpose, maybe, the thing he had lost when Thomas died. The reason to keep going beyond simple survival. Later, when the others had settled in for sleep, Nathan stood on the porch alone. The stars were brilliant overhead, cold and eternal. Somewhere out there, Marcus was riding toward whatever came next. Thornton was plotting revenge or escape. The world was still turning, still full of danger and uncertainty. But here, in this small cabin, they had won. For today they had held the line. And tomorrow they would do it again if they had to. Nathan touched the turquoise necklace at his throat, thought of Thomas, of promises kept and debts honored. We did it, brother, he whispered to the night. Your boy came through, just like you knew he would. The wind carried his words away, but Nathan felt lighter somehow, as if a burden he had carried for 3 years had finally begun to lift. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Thornton wouldn't go quietly. There would be lawyers, courts, maybe more violence. But they had the treaty, they had witnesses, they had the truth. And sometimes, against all odds, the truth was enough. Nathan went back inside, barred the door, and allowed himself to sleep. Deep, dreamless sleep, the kind that came only when a man knew he had done everything possible, given everything necessary. The kind of sleep earned by keeping promises, no matter the cost. The dawn came gentle over the New Mexico territory, washing the land in soft gold that made everything look new. Nathan Graves stood on his porch, coffee cup warming his weathered hands, and watched the sun climb. His body ached in a dozen places from yesterday's fight, old wounds and new bruises making themselves known with each small movement. But he was alive. They were all alive. That was worth some pain. Inside the cabin, he could hear the quiet sounds of others stirring. Samuel's yawn, the creak of Ayanna's careful footsteps as she favored her healing ankle, Sarah's soft humming as she prepared breakfast. 3 days ago, Nathan had lived alone in this cabin, speaking to no one, needing no one. Now it was full of life and purpose, and something that felt dangerously like hope. He wasn't sure how he felt about that. The coffee was strong and bitter, the way he liked it. He sipped slowly, thinking about what came next. Thornton had retreated, but men like that didn't simply give up. They regrouped. They found new angles of attack. The treaty was safe, locked in the small iron box Nathan kept under the floorboards. But paper alone wouldn't be enough. They needed more. They needed the law on their side. Real law, not the bought and paid for kind that Thornton controlled. Couldn't sleep either? Samuel emerged from the cabin, still rubbing sleep from his eyes. The boy had grown in these past days, not physically, though there was that too. But something in his bearing had changed. The uncertain teenager from Boston was being replaced by something harder, more sure of itself. Old men don't need much sleep, Nathan said. And I was thinking about what comes next. Yeah, Samuel leaned against the porch rail, studying the horizon like Nathan did, learning by imitation the way young men always learned. We can't just wait for Thornton to make the next move. We need to take the fight to him. Fight's already been taken far enough. We held what mattered. Now we let the law handle it. You think the law will handle it, after what Thornton said about owning judges and senators? Nathan didn't answer immediately. The boy was right to be skeptical. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. There are still good men in positions of power, Nathan finally said. Men who care about justice. We just need to find them. And if we can't, then we do what we've been doing. We stand firm. We hold the line. Samuel nodded slowly, accepting this. Grandpa, can I ask you something? Always. Were you scared yesterday when you went out there alone? Nathan set down his coffee cup, considering the question, considering what truth the boy needed to hear. Terrified. So scared my hands were shaking, and I thought my heart might give out. Samuel looked surprised. But you did it anyway. That's what courage is, son. Not the absence of fear, but doing what needs doing despite the fear. Your father understood that, died proving it. I want to be like him, like you. You already are. Yesterday, when you rode through those mountains alone, knowing Thornton's men might be hunting you, you became exactly the man your father wanted you to be. Pride flickered across Samuel's young face, quickly hidden but unmistakable. The boy was learning to be stoic, to keep his emotions close. Nathan wasn't sure that was entirely a good thing, but it was how men survived out here. Ayanna appeared in the doorway, balancing on her crutch. Her ankle was healing well, the swelling reduced, but it would be weeks before she could walk normally. Chief Neshoba will be worried, she said without preamble. I have been gone 5 days. He will think me dead. Nathan had been avoiding thinking about that. Returning Ayanna to her father meant a journey into Apache territory, meant facing Chief Neshoba, explaining what had happened, meant confronting a father's rage and grief and relief all mixed together. It would not be an easy meeting. We'll take you home, Nathan said. Today, if you're strong enough to ride. I am strong enough. Then we go. Samuel, start saddling horses, 3 of them. Sarah can stay here and watch the place. Sarah emerged behind Ayanna, a wooden spoon in her hand. I'm coming with you. It's dangerous. Thornton might do a lot of things. But I've been hiding from him for 3 years. I'm done hiding. Besides, Chief Neshoba should hear my testimony too. He should know the full scope of what Thornton planned. Nathan studied her, This woman who had found her courage in the midst of chaos. She was right. Neshoba needed to hear everything. All right, 4 horses then. We leave in an hour. They rode out as the sun climbed higher, 4 riders moving southwest toward the Apache lands. Samuel rode point, his young eyes sharp for any sign of danger. Sarah and Ayana rode together, talking in low voices about shared experiences Nathan could only imagine. Nathan brought up the rear, rifle across his saddle, eyes constantly scanning. The land changed as they traveled. The scrub land gave way to rockier terrain, then to the foothills of mountains that rose like ancient sentinels. This was Apache country, had been for generations before any white man arrived. Nathan felt like an intruder, riding where he had no right to be. But he had been invited. The turquoise necklace at his throat was his passport, the symbol that Thomas had died honorably in the eyes of the people who lived here. Around midday, they were met. 5 Apache warriors emerged from cover so smoothly it seemed like they had materialized from the rocks themselves. They were young, perhaps 20 to 25, armed with rifles and wearing a mixture of traditional dress and items taken from the white world. Their faces were painted for war. The leader, a tall man with a scar running down his left cheek, raised his hand, the universal signal to halt. Nathan reined in his horse. "We come in peace. I am Nathan Graves, brother to Thomas Graves. I bring your chief's daughter home." The warrior's eyes widened at the sight of Ayana. She sat straighter in her saddle, lifted her chin with royal bearing. "I am Ayana, daughter of Neshoba. These people saved my life. They are under my protection." The scarred warrior moved closer, studying Nathan with intense dark eyes. "I know this name. Thomas Graves. My uncle speaks of him, says he died with honor." "Your uncle?" "Kiona. He scouts for our band." The warrior looked at Ayana. "He is also your brother, daughter of Neshoba. He will be glad to see you alive." "Take us to my father," Ayana said. It was not a request. The warriors formed an escort around them, and they continued deeper into the mountains. The path grew narrow, winding between rocks that could hide 100 ambushes. Nathan kept his hands visible, showing he meant no threat. Samuel did the same, though Nathan could see the tension in the boy's shoulders. After an hour of riding, they crested a ridge and looked down into a valley. The Apache village spread below them, perhaps 50 structures in total. Not the traditional wickiups Nathan had expected, but a mixture of styles. Some were the traditional dome-shaped dwellings made of branches and hides. Others were more permanent structures made of adobe or wood. A river ran through the center of the valley, providing water. Horses grazed in a meadow. Children played near the water. It looked like any frontier settlement, Nathan thought. People trying to live their lives, raise their families, survive in a hard land, just like him. As they descended, people began to notice them, stopped what they were doing to stare at the white strangers riding into their village with their chief's daughter. Nathan heard murmurs, saw hands move toward weapons. The atmosphere was tense, balanced on the edge of violence. Then a cry went up. "Ayana! Ayana has returned!" A man emerged from the largest structure in the village. He was perhaps 62, but age had not diminished him. He stood tall and straight, shoulders broad, moving with the controlled power of a warrior who had never lost his edge. His hair, mostly gray now, hung in 2 long braids decorated with feathers and beads. A bandage wrapped around his left shoulder, testament to the recent attack on the village. This was Chief Neshoba. Nathan knew it in his bones. Ayana slid from her horse, nearly fell, caught herself on her crutch. "Father!" Neshoba closed the distance between them in seconds, caught his daughter in his arms, held her like she might disappear if he loosened his grip. Nathan saw tears stream down the old chief's weathered face, saw his shoulders shake with relief and joy. For long moments, father and daughter stood together, speaking in their own language. Words Nathan couldn't understand, but whose meaning was universal. Loss and reunion. Fear and relief. Love that transcended everything else. Finally, Neshoba released her, held her at arm's length, examined her injuries with a father's sharp eye. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion, but his English was clear. "Who did this to you?" "White men, 3 of them. They planned to sell me to a rancher named Thornton." Neshoba's face went hard as stone, his eyes lifted to Nathan, and Nathan felt the weight of that gaze like a physical thing. This was a man who had led warriors in battle for 40 years, who had survived the Spanish, the Mexicans, the Americans, who had signed peace while keeping his pride intact. This was a dangerous man. And these white people? Neshoba gestured to Nathan's group. Why do they bring you home? Because this one saved me. Ayanna pointed to Nathan. This is Nathan Graves, brother to Thomas, the man who died protecting our people 3 years ago. Recognition flickered in Neshoba's eyes. He stepped forward, studied Nathan closely. I remember Thomas Graves, good man, brave man. He fought 4 raiders to save my cousin's family. Killed 2, the others killed him. We buried him with warrior honors. I know, Nathan said quietly. You sent me his possessions. And this. He touched the turquoise necklace. Yes, I told Thomas's spirit that his people would remember him, that Apache would honor his name. Neshoba's eyes narrowed. Are you a warrior like your brother? I was a long time ago. And now? Now I'm just an old man trying to keep a promise. What promise? To protect Thomas's son, to teach him to be a good man, to stand for what's right even when it costs everything. Neshoba studied Samuel, who sat his horse quietly, meeting the chief's gaze without flinching. This is the son? Thomas's son, yes. My grandson. He has brave eyes, like his father. Neshoba looked back to Nathan. You risked your life for my daughter, Witchy, because it was the right thing to do. Many white men do not care about right and wrong when it comes to Apache. I'm not many white men. A hint of a smile touched Neshoba's stern face. No, I see that. You are like your brother. He turned to the gathered villagers, raised his voice. This man and his family are honored guests. They will have food, shelter, protection. Anyone who harms them answers to me. The tension in the village eased. People returned to their activities, though many still cast curious glances at the white strangers. Neshoba invited them into his lodge, a structure larger than the others, with walls decorated with painted hides and weapons. A fire burned in the center. They sat in a circle around it, traditional hospitality that transcended cultures. A woman brought food, venison, cornbread, and berries. They ate in silence at first, the Apache way of showing respect. Only when the meal was finished did Neshoba speak again. Tell me everything, from the beginning. Nathan told it all, finding Ayanna near death, taking her in, the attacks, Marcus Webb's betrayal and redemption, Samuel's ride to Fort Union, the treaty, Thornton's threats, Sarah's courage. Neshoba listened without interruption, his face revealing nothing. But Nathan saw his hands clench when Nathan described Ayanna's injuries, saw his eyes flash with rage when Nathan mentioned the trafficking scheme. When Nathan finished, silence hung heavy in the lodge. This Thornton, Neshoba finally said, he wanted to use my daughter to start a war, to break the peace treaty so he could steal our land. Yes, and he would have succeeded. If you had not helped her, if the boy had not found the old treaty, war would have come. Many would have died. Yes, Neshoba stood, walked to the fire, stared into its flames. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with old pain. I have fought white men for 40 years, fought the Spanish before that. I have buried 3 sons, 2 wives, countless brothers. When your government offered peace, I wanted to refuse. Wanted to keep fighting until we drove all invaders from our land. He turned back to Nathan. But I am old, Ishmael, tired. I have grandchildren who deserve to grow up without war, so I signed the treaty. Agreed to share the land our ancestors gave us. And now I learn that even this small peace, this compromise, was too much for men like Thornton. Not all white men are like Thornton, Nathan said. No, some are like Thomas, like you, but there are not enough of you. Maybe, but we're working on that. Neshoba almost smiled. You speak like a man who still has hope. I lost mine years ago. Then maybe it's time to find it again. Because we have something Thornton doesn't. We have the truth, and we have proof. The treaty you signed is legal and binding. The land cannot be sold. If we can get this to the right people in the territorial government, to federal authorities who aren't corrupt, we can stop Thornton. We can make the peace hold. You believe this? after seeing how your people treat treaties with Apache? I believe it's worth trying, because the alternative is war, and war means Samuel grows up in a world where violence is the only answer. Where men like Thornton win because good men don't fight hard enough. Neshoba studied him for a long moment. Then he sat back down, his decision made. Very well, I will support this. We'll testify if needed. We'll bring other chiefs to speak. We will show your government that we want peace, that we are not the savages they claim. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. Men like Thornton do not surrender easily. He will fight this, with lawyers, with money, with influence, perhaps with violence. Let him fight. We'll fight back. You speak bravely for a man who is not young anymore. Nathan smiled grimly. It just means I've survived this long. I intend to keep surviving. They talked through the afternoon, planning their approach. Sarah provided details about Thornton's operations, names of other victims, dates and locations that could be verified. Samuel produced the treaty, carefully unrolling it for Neshoba to see. The old chief traced the words with his finger, his face unreadable. My father's father signed a treaty once. The white men ignored it, took our land anyway. Why will this be different? Because we won't let them ignore it, Samuel said, surprising everyone with his vehemence. Because we'll fight. In courts, in newspapers, everywhere. We'll make so much noise they can't ignore us. Neshoba looked at the boy with new respect. You have fire, grandson of Thomas. Good. You will need it. As evening fell, Neshoba insisted they stay the night. It would be dangerous to travel after dark, and besides, there was a ceremony he wished to perform. They gathered around a large fire in the center of the village. The entire community attended, perhaps 200 people. Drums began to beat, a rhythm that seemed to come from the earth itself. Neshoba stood before the fire, resplendent in ceremonial dress. He spoke in Apache first, long sentences that rolled and flowed like music. Then he switched to English. 3 years ago, Thomas Graves died defending Apache children. Tonight, we honor his memory by welcoming his family into ours. Nathan Graves, Samuel Graves, you are no longer strangers, you are brothers. Our fires are your fires. Our food is your food. Our enemies are your enemies. He approached Nathan, placed a necklace of turquoise and silver around his neck. Did the same for Samuel. The crowd erupted in a cry that raised the hair on Nathan's arms. You honor us, Nathan said, his voice thick. No, we honor your brother's sacrifice and your courage. Neshoba smiled, genuine warmth in his eyes. Besides, my daughter speaks highly of you. She says you are stubborn as a mule and twice as ornery. High praise from Ayanna. Despite everything, Nathan laughed. Around him, the Apache people laughed too, and for a moment, the divisions of culture and history seemed to fade. They spent the night in comfort, sleeping in a guest lodge. Nathan lay awake long after the others had drifted off, listening to the sounds of the village settling for sleep. This was enemy territory, according to some. These were the people he should fear, according to men like Thornton. But all Nathan felt was a strange sense of peace. These people had welcomed him, honored him, accepted him, not because of his skin or his language, but because of his actions. Maybe that was how the world should work. In the morning, Neshoba surprised them. I will ride with you to the territorial capital. We'll bring 5 warriors. We will face your government together. Show them that Apache want peace or by my boss. That's a long journey, Nathan warned, and possibly dangerous. All life is dangerous, but this is necessary. They left the village at dawn, now a party of 10. Neshoba, 5 warriors including Kiona, who turned out to be Ayanna's brother and embraced Samuel like a long-lost friend, Nathan, Samuel, Sarah, and Ayanna, who insisted on coming despite her injury. I am the proof, she said when Nathan protested. I am the one who was taken. My testimony matters most. She was right, of course. They rode east towards Santa Fe, the territorial capital. It was 3 days of hard travel, and they drew stares at every small settlement they passed. A group of Apache riding with white people was unusual enough to be remarkable. On the second day, they were met by a detachment of cavalry, 10 soldiers led by a young lieutenant who looked nervous at the sight of armed Apache. State your business, the lieutenant demanded, hand on his pistol. Neshoba rode forward calmly. I am Chief Neshoba. We ride to Santa Fe to meet with the territorial governor. We have information about illegal land seizures and treaty violations. The lieutenant blinked. You speak English? Yes, I also speak Spanish, French, and 3 Apache dialects. Does this surprise you? No, I mean, yes, I didn't. You did not expect savages to be civilized? Neshoba's tone was mild, but his eyes were sharp. Perhaps you should examine your expectations. Nathan intervened before the situation escalated. Lieutenant, I'm Nathan Graves. This is official business. We need to reach Santa Fe. Will you escort us or let us pass? The lieutenant considered, clearly out of his depth. Finally, he nodded. We'll escort you for your protection. Of course, for our protection. They arrived in Santa Fe on the evening of the 3rd day. The territorial capital was bustling, a mixture of Spanish colonial architecture and newer American construction. People stopped to stare at the unusual procession, Apache warriors riding peacefully through the streets. Nathan led them to the office of Territorial Governor Edmund Ross. It was late, but lights still burned in the windows. Someone was working. Nathan dismounted, approached the door. A guard blocked his path. Office is closed. Tell the governor that Nathan Graves is here with Chief Neshoba. We have information about Caleb Thornton that he needs to hear. The guard disappeared inside, returned a few minutes later, looking shocked. The governor will see you. All of you. They filed into a large office decorated with maps and territorial seals. Behind a massive desk sat Governor Ross, a distinguished man in his 50s with sharp eyes and the bearing of someone who had seen his share of trouble. He stood when they entered, his gaze moving from Nathan to Neshoba to the others. Chief Neshoba, I didn't expect to see you in my office. I did not expect to be here, Governor, but circumstances demand it. I'm listening. For the next 2 hours, they laid it all out. Samuel produced the Treaty of 1868. Sarah provided her documentation of Thornton's trafficking operation. Ayanna testified about her kidnapping. Nathan described the attacks on his property. Neshoba spoke last, his voice carrying the weight of a leader who had seen too much suffering. Governor Ross, I signed a peace treaty with your government in good faith. I convinced my people to put down their weapons, to share the land we have held for generations. And now I learn that this peace was threatened not by Apache, but by white men seeking profit. If my daughter had died, war would have come, the treaty would have ended, exactly as Thornton planned. Governor Ross had grown increasingly pale as the testimony continued. Now he sat back in his chair, rubbing his face wearily. Thornton contributed heavily to my campaign. I considered him a friend. Friends do not always show their true faces, Neshoba said. No, they don't. Ross stood, paced to the window, stared out at the darkening street. This treaty, the one from 1868, if it's genuine... It is, Samuel said. I retrieved it from Fort Union archives myself. It has the presidential seal. Then Thornton's land purchases are invalid. The government cannot sell land it does not own. Ross turned back to them. But this goes beyond Thornton. If this treaty is enforceable, it affects dozens of land deals across the territory. Ranchers, mining companies, settlers, all of them may be on land they have no legal right to occupy. Then that is a problem your government must solve, Neshoba said. But it does not change the law. No, it doesn't. Ross returned to his desk, pulled out paper and pen. I'm issuing an order immediately. Caleb Thornton is to be arrested on charges of conspiracy, kidnapping, and trafficking. His assets are frozen pending investigation, and I'm sending a telegram to Washington. This treaty needs federal review. Will they listen? Nathan asked. The Secretary of the Interior is an honest man. He'll listen. Whether he can act against all the interests arrayed against him, I don't know. But we have to trim on. That's all we ask, Nathan said. Ross wrote rapidly, signed the order with a flourish. I'll have marshals dispatched tonight. Thornton won't escape. He has influence, Sarah warned. He'll fight this. Let him fight, but he'll do it from a jail cell. They left the governor's office as full darkness fell. The streets of Santa Fe were lit by lanterns, casting pools of warm light against the encroaching night. Nathan felt something loosen in his chest, a tension he had been carrying for days. They had done it, had brought the truth to power, had given justice a chance. Now they could only wait. Neshoba insisted they stay in Santa Fe until Thornton was arrested. I want to see this man face the consequences of his actions. They found lodging at a modest hotel that was willing to accept Apache guests. The owner, an older Mexican woman named Maria, took one look at Ayana's injuries and declared the girl needed proper care. She bustled Ayana off to a room, leaving the men to settle in. That evening, as they ate dinner in the hotel's small dining room, Marshal Henry Dalton appeared. Nathan recognized him from the siege, the lawman who had arrived with the dawn to turn the tide. "Mr. Graves," Dalton said, touching his hat, "Chief Neshoba, I've been sent by Governor Ross. Thought you'd want to know that we arrested Caleb Thornton an hour ago." Nathan set down his fork. "How did he take it?" "About as you'd expect. Threats, bluster, claims that he owns half the territorial government, but he went into the cell just the same. Rich men bleed the same as poor men when you cut them." "What happens now?" "Trial. Federal prosecutors are being brought in. Given the scope of the charges and the treaty implications, this is bigger than territorial jurisdiction. Could take months." "Will he stay locked up?" "Judge denied bail. Thornton's considered a flight risk. Too much money, too many connections outside the territory." Nathan felt relief wash over him. It wasn't over, but it was something. "Thank you, Marshal." "Don't thank me. Thank yourself and this boy." Dalton nodded to Samuel. "Took guts to ride through those mountains alone. Your father would be proud." Samuel ducked his head, embarrassed but pleased. After Dalton left, Neshoba raised his cup in a toast. "To justice, and to the men and women who fight for it." They stayed in Santa Fe for 3 more days while the legal machinery ground forward. Nathan watched Samuel during this time, saw how the boy carried himself with new confidence, saw how he talked to the Apache warriors as equals, learning from them, sharing stories, saw how he was becoming the man Thomas had hoped he would be. On their last evening in the capital, Nathan found himself alone with Neshoba on the hotel's roof, watching the sunset paint the sky. "Your grandson is good with my people," Neshoba observed. "He listens, does not assume he knows better. His father taught him that, before I got the chance to ruin it. You do not give yourself enough credit. The boy has your strength, your honor." Nathan was quiet for a moment. "When Thomas died, I thought I was done. Thought I'd just fade away on that ranch alone with my ghosts. Then Samuel came, and Ayana, and suddenly I had reasons again. Reasons to live, reasons to matter. There's a difference, but Neshoba nodded slowly. "I understand. After my sons died, I felt the same. But then Ayana was born, and I learned that legacy is not about what we accomplish. It is about what we pass on, what we teach. Yes, what we teach." Neshoba looked at Nathan directly. "I would ask something of you, Nathan Graves." "Ask." "When I die, my people will need friends among the whites. Advocates who understand our ways but can navigate your world. I see this in Samuel. He could be such a bridge. You want me to encourage him? I want you to teach him about both worlds, so that when I am gone, when you are gone, the peace we fought for has someone to defend it." Nathan felt the weight of what Neshoba was asking. It was more than just teaching Samuel about treaties and law. It was about raising him to be the kind of man who could stand between two cultures, who could translate not just words but understanding. It was a heavy burden to place on young shoulders. But looking at Samuel, Nathan thought maybe the boy could carry it. "I'll teach him," Nathan promised. "Everything I know, everything I've learned, and when I'm gone, he'll remember. He'll stand for what's right. Then I am content." Neshoba stood, placed a hand on Nathan's shoulder. "You are a good man, Nathan Graves. Your brother chose well when he asked you to raise his son." "I hope so. Most days I feel like I'm just stumbling through it." That is how all fathers feel. The good ones anyway. They stood together as darkness fell, 2 old warriors watching the stars emerge, each thinking about legacies and promises and the future they were building for the children they loved. The next morning they rode back toward Nathan's ranch. The journey was easier now without the weight of urgency pressing on them. They took their time, camped under the stars, shared stories around evening fires. Kiona taught Samuel how to track, how to read signs in the earth that told stories of who had passed and when. Samuel taught Keona about law and courts and the white man's system of justice. They became friends, these two young men from different worlds. Ayanna rode with Sarah, the two women forming a bond born of shared trauma and shared courage. Nathan heard them talking late into the night sometimes. Voices too low to make out words, but the tone clear enough. Healing, understanding, hope. Nathan and Neshoba rode together, often in comfortable silence. The kind of silence that came when two men understood each other well enough that words were optional. On the last day of their journey, as Nathan's ranch came into view, Neshoba reined in his horse. "I will leave you here. My people will wonder where I have gone." "You're welcome any time," Nathan said. "My home is yours." "And mine is yours." Neshoba extended his hand, not in the white man's handshake, but in the Apache way, gripping Nathan's forearm. "We are brothers now, in all the ways that matter." "Brothers," Nathan agreed. Neshoba and his warriors rode away, Keona turning back once to wave at Samuel. The boy waved back, something like sadness crossing his face. "Will we see them again?" Samuel asked. "Yes," Nathan said with certainty. "We're family now. Family comes back." They reached the ranch as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the familiar ground. The cabin looked different somehow, not physically changed, but altered in Nathan's perception. It was no longer just a place to survive. It was a home, a place worth fighting for. Sarah settled in easily, taking over one corner of the main room and organizing things with the efficiency of someone used to making do. Ayanna moved more slowly, her ankle still healing, but she insisted on helping with daily tasks. "I will not be useless," she declared when Nathan suggested she rest. "Never thought you were." Over the following weeks, a rhythm developed. Samuel and Nathan worked the ranch during the day, repairing fences, tending livestock, preparing for winter. Ayanna and Sarah managed the household, cooked meals, and planned for the future. It felt, Nathan thought, like a family. Not the traditional kind, perhaps, but family nonetheless. News came sporadically from Santa Fe. Thornton's trial was proceeding, but slowly. Federal prosecutors were building a case that would stand up to the inevitable appeals. Other victims had come forward, emboldened by Sarah's courage. The scandal was spreading, touching politicians and businessmen across the territory. Marshal Dalton visited once, bringing updates and checking on their safety. Thornton's lawyer is pushing for dismissal, claims the treaty is too old to enforce, but the judge isn't buying it. "Good," Nathan said. "There's something else. The federal government is reviewing all land transactions in the territory. If the 1868 treaty is upheld, a lot of people are going to lose property they thought they owned illegally. That's not our problem." "No, but it makes you unpopular. Some of those landowners are talking about challenging the treaty, about using force if necessary." Nathan felt his jaw tighten. Let them try. We held off Thornton's men. We can hold off anyone. But after Dalton left, Nathan found himself troubled. This was bigger than he had realized. By bringing the treaty to light, they had threatened the interests of dozens, maybe hundreds of powerful men. Men who would not go quietly into dispossession. The fight was far from over. Winter came early that year, bringing snow that blanketed the ranch in white silence. They huddled around the fire in the evenings, telling stories, making plans. Samuel talked about wanting to study law properly, about becoming an advocate for Apache rights. Sarah spoke of establishing a shelter for women escaping situations like hers. Ayanna described her father's vision for a lasting peace. And Nathan listened, marveling at how much these three people had changed his life, how they had given him purpose again. One evening, as snow fell thick outside, Ayanna approached Nathan with a question. "When spring comes, I should return to my people, but—" She hesitated, something Nathan had rarely seen her do. "But what?" "I do not want to leave. This place, these people, it feels like home." Nathan understood what she was really asking, whether there was a place for her here permanently, whether she belonged. "You're always welcome here," Nathan said carefully, "for as long as you want to stay. This is your home if you choose it." Relief flooded her face. "Thank you. My father will understand. He knows I have found good people." That night, lying in his bed, listening to the wind howl, Nathan thought about the future, about Samuel growing into manhood, learning to bridge two worlds, about Sarah healing and helping others heal. about Ayanna finding a place where she was valued and safe, about himself, an old man given unexpected purpose in his final years. Thomas had asked him to raise Samuel to be a good man, but in doing so, Nathan had become a better man himself, had learned that honor wasn't something you performed. It was something you lived, daily, quietly, through small choices that accumulated into a life worth living, had learned that promises, once made, shaped everything that came after. Spring arrived with the suddenness of desert seasons, transforming the landscape almost overnight. The trial in Santa Fe concluded with Thornton convicted on multiple counts, 25 years in federal prison, his assets seized, his reputation destroyed. News of the verdict reached the ranch on a warm April morning. Samuel rode in from town with the newspaper, shouting before he even dismounted, "He's guilty! Guilty on all counts!" They celebrated that evening with a feast, roasted a goat that Neshoba had gifted them, drank sparingly from a bottle of whiskey Nathan had been saving, laughed and told stories and allowed themselves to believe that justice, however delayed, had finally arrived. But Nathan knew better than to think it was truly over. Thornton was just one man. There would be others. The fight to uphold a treaty, to protect Apache lands, to ensure that peace held would continue for years, maybe generations. But tonight they could celebrate the victory they had won. As the evening wound down, Nathan found himself outside looking at the stars. The same stars that had watched over him at Gettysburg, at Thomas's grave, through 3 years of isolation and grief. The same stars that now watched over a future he had helped shape. "You did good, brother," he whispered to Thomas's memory. "Your boy's going to be fine, better than fine. He's going to change things, make them better." The wind carried his words away, and Nathan felt, perhaps for the first time since Thomas died, something like peace settle into his bones. The last promise had been kept. Samuel was a man now, with his own path to walk, but Nathan had given him the tools he needed, the values, the courage. The rest was up to the boy. Nathan went back inside, back to the warmth and laughter and family he had found when he stopped hiding from the world. And as he settled into his chair, surrounded by people he loved, he allowed himself to think about tomorrow, about the ranch that needed tending, and the battles still to fight and the life still to live, about legacy and honor and promises that echoed through generations. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. But tonight, Nathan Graves was content. He had held the line, had stood firm when it mattered most, had proven that one man, however old and tired, could still make a difference. That was enough. That was everything. The fire crackled. Outside, the desert night sang its ancient song. And in a small cabin in the New Mexico territory, hope lived on, fragile but unbroken, passed from one generation to the next. The last promise had been kept, and the future, uncertain but bright, waited to be born. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting dancing shadows on the cabin walls. Nathan sat in his chair, watching the flames, thinking about the journey that had brought them here. From that desperate moment when he found Ayanna broken and pleading, to this moment of peace and hope. Samuel had grown from a grieving boy into a man with purpose. Ayanna had transformed from a victim into a warrior. Sarah had found her voice. And Nathan, he had found something he thought he'd lost forever when Thomas died. He had found family. Not the family of blood alone, though Samuel carried that bond, but the family you chose, the family you built through shared struggle and sacrifice, the family forged in fire and sealed with trust. Outside, the desert night was cold and clear. Stars wheeled overhead in their eternal dance. Somewhere out there, Marcus was riding toward whatever redemption looked like. Thornton sat in a cell, his empire crumbling. The territory was changing, slowly, imperfectly, but changing nonetheless. And here, in this small cabin on land that legally belonged to the Apache but felt like home, Nathan allowed himself something he hadn't felt in 3 long years. Hope. Hope that tomorrow would be better than today. Hope that the seeds they had planted would grow into something lasting. Hope that Samuel's children, and their children after them, would live in a world where treaties were honored and promises were kept. The fire burned low, the night deepened, and Nathan Graves, old soldier, reluctant hero, keeper of promises, finally let himself rest. The future was uncertain, but it was bright, and it was theirs.